Welcome to our Partswatch training video. In this lesson, we'll discuss how to set up and schedule daily, weekly, monthly, yearly reports to output to a printer, email address, and/or save to a file as a PDF using the Task Scheduler functionality. And please view the whole video or check the F1 help file before contacting customer support if you have questions. There are a couple setups that must be done before we get started with Task Scheduler. Per store, Partswatch allows for multiple PCs to run a background process. A new checkbox has been added to the background processor setup screen, allowing a specific PC to be designated for Task Scheduler. This allows one PC, perhaps one with a PIC printer attached, to be designated for printing incoming orders, and another to be designated for printing or saving Task Scheduler reports. However, the same background processor can be used for both or all background tasks within a store. And if you have multiple stores, a single PC can be used to process reports for multiple stores, but this is not recommended because of the delays and the manual effort required to turn the background processor off and on for each store sequentially. So to set up the background process, go to the PC that has been selected to process Task Scheduler jobs and select PC Setup Background Process from the menu and check the Process Task Scheduler checkbox. And on the same PC, select PC Setup, Assign Printers from the menu and ensure that the default printer displayed is the one where you want reports from the Task Scheduler to print. And if reports will be emailed on the PC that will be running the background processor, the fields must be set up on the Control Store, Store Info, Store Information screens, Email tab. The background processor uses the same email settings that are used to send invoices or statements via email, if these email functions are already being used. Customer support can provide assistance in setting up the fields for the first time if help is needed. There are 4 basic steps involved in setting up reports in Task Scheduler. First, creating profiles, which are simply a way to save report parameters so filters do not have to be individually set each time a report is run. Second, creating task profile batches. And just so you know, a batch is only a name we've given to a setup for reports that will run at the same time. And even if only one report is run, it's still called a batch. Third, scheduling the batches for output. And last, setting up the delivery options to print, save to a file, or email the reports. And unless you're familiar with report profiles, stop here and watch the Report Profiles training video before continuing with the Task Scheduler training. Now that we know how to save profiles, let's go to the Task Scheduler screen from the Utility Options Task Scheduler menu and set up a scheduled task. The Task Scheduler screen allows you to schedule batches of tasks from a central location. The screen seems to have a lot going on, but you'll see it's not hard to figure out as we walk through it. When the screen opens, all of your existing batches will be displayed in the Existing Batches section. And if you remember, batch is just a term we use to group reports that are all output at the same time. When the Task Scheduler Setup screen opens, each user will see the list of batches that are viewable to them based upon access set when the batch was created or last updated. If all batches are set with viewable access to store or all, then all users will be able to see all batches. However, if there are multiple stores in the database, anyone who doesn't have access to all stores may not see all batches. And the basic steps are: create a batch, assign profiles to the batch, schedule the batch, and choose the delivery method. Okay, so first let's create a batch. Click the Add button and a pop-up will display. Enter a name and optionally enter a description. Then click OK and the new batch will be added to the grid. And here's where you can edit the name or description and access, and then click the Update to save the changes. Oh, and the fields above the batches can be used to find one by name, description, schedule, or created by name. Highlight a batch and you'll be able to see if the profiles have been assigned, scheduled, and whether or not a delivery method has already been set. To delete a batch, click on the batch in the grid and click the Delete button, or right-click on a batch and select Delete Batch. And a pop-up will display asking you if you're sure you want to delete it. Click Yes to delete the batch or click No to keep it. Any batch can be copied. This is especially useful for the default end-of-day batch, since the original is not editable. A copy can be made, and whatever changes are desired can be made to the copy. This is also useful when multiple stores want to run the same or a similar batch of reports, since the setups are store-specific. To copy a batch, right-click and select Copy, or click the Copy button, and a pop-up will open to name the copy. By default, the name and description will be the same as the original batch, except the new batch name will be appended with the word copy. Both of these fields are editable. Click OK to create the new batch. Click Cancel to discard it. The new batch will contain all the same profiles as the original batch and may be modified. New report profiles may be added and any existing report profiles may be removed. The new batch will not have any schedule or delivery options, and these must be set after the copy is made. If the intent of this batch is to be run at end of day, be sure to set the batch schedule to Run at End of Day. Before we go any further, let's talk about the default end of day batch. The report type field in the day cache close screen has been changed to two fields, end of day batch and end of day report. By default, the fields are set to run the existing end-of-day reports without selecting anything in the new fields when the Preview or Print button or the Close Print End-of-Day button is clicked to close the day and output the reports. This is the default end-of-day batch in Task Scheduler. These default reports are a preloaded batch that cannot be changed. But following the same functionality currently used with the report type field, you can still optionally select one or more reports to run from the end-of-day report field. The end-of-day batch drop-down lists all batches whose run at field is set to end of day in the schedule pop-up for the batch found in the Task Scheduler screen. The end-of-day batch dropdown will also include the preloaded default end-of-day batch, but only if it is set to display by going to the Task Scheduler screen, right-clicking the default end-of-day batch, and selecting Display on Day Cache Close Screen. If the batch is already set to display, this toggle option will say Hide on Day Cache Close Screen, but leave it on to use existing reports for end of day. The column to the left of the batch name is used to display whether or not the batch output will be successful. A red X indicates the batch settings are incomplete. The batch doesn't have at least one profile, isn't scheduled, doesn't have a delivery method, or at least one email recipient, if an email option is selected, and will not run until the issues are addressed. A green check indicates the batch settings are complete and that the batch will run at the scheduled time. And a black X indicates the default batch for end of day, so it can't be scheduled or given a delivery option. However, it can be copied. Should a scheduled batch fail to run, a message will be written to System Messages. Okay, let's stop here and pick back up in Part 2 with assigning profiles to batches. So be sure to watch that one next. And thank you for joining us.